Hi there. In our village, the old oak stands apart, a mute witness to everything people have chosen to forget. Anyone who has ever touched its dark bark vanishes from ordinary life. They come back, but can no longer say a single word. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is for you. I'm really curious to see who's joined us. Now, get comfortable. We're about to begin. You have always wondered about the old oak tree. It stands on the edge of the village, right on the highest hill, where the grass is never as green as you think it should be, and the wind always feels a little colder. The tree's branches twist towards the sky, tangled and thick, almost black against the pale clouds. Even in the bright haze of noon, the oak seems to cast more shadow than light. No matter how much you tell yourself that all trees are more or less the same, this one does not let you believe it. The adults in the village say nothing directly about the oak. Instead, they mention it in half sentences, the way they mention the pox or the devil or last year's drought. Your grandmother, when she sees you looking up the hill, simply says, "Some things best left alone." Your uncle, who drinks too much cider, claims that he once saw a whole herd of deer lying under the branches, silent as stones, but he will not look you in the eye as he tells it. Other children are much more practical. They turn the tree into a game. Who will run closest? Who will touch the lowest branch? Who will dare to linger in its shadow after sunset? You have never played these games, not exactly. You are not braver than the others, only more curious, which in the end is a much more dangerous quality. Sometimes you sit at the edge of the potato field and stare at the oak. There is something about its shape that bothers you. The roots break the ground in wide, clawed arcs. Nothing grows right near its trunk, not even moss. The birds fly high over its crown, but never land in the branches. And the silence beneath the oak is thicker, deeper, as if the world itself holds its breath. One evening, as the sun folds itself away behind the hills, and the sheep begin their slow trudge toward home, you find yourself drawn toward the tree. You tell yourself it is only a walk. You tell yourself you will not get too close. The excuses tumble out of you, awkward and thin, but your feet carry you forward just the same. The climb up the hill is steeper than you expect. Each step is a little harder than the last. The air grows cooler, sharper, the last stretch, the one that brings you within arm's reach of the trunk, is so silent you can hear your own heart pounding in your chest. When you stand in the shadow of the oak, you feel something, not fear exactly, but the prickle of being watched. You reach out. Maybe you only mean to brush the bark, to prove to yourself that nothing will happen, that all the stories are just stories. The bark is rough beneath your palm, lined with deep, ancient grooves. There is a moment, an instant, when you feel the faintest pulse under your fingers, like the slow, slow heartbeat of something not quite asleep. You pull your hand away. Nothing happens. There is no thunder, no lightning, not even a cold breeze. You feel almost disappointed. You look up into the branches, but they only sway gently, creaking in the wind. The sky is beginning to darken, painted with streaks of red and violet. You turn away, already planning the story you will tell. How brave you were, how you touched the forbidden oak and lived to tell the tale. But as you make your way down the hill, a strange sensation prickles at the edge of your mind. The air is filled with a faint rustling, softer than leaves, and for a moment you think you hear your own name whispered in a voice not your own. You walk faster, telling yourself that the world is exactly as it was before. You touch the tree, and nothing happened. Of course, you are wrong. You wake before dawn, which is unusual for you. For a while, you stare at the ceiling of your family's small cottage, listening to the quiet sigh of your own breathing and the soft shifting of the house as it settles deeper into the cold. The first thought in your mind is the old oak tree. You half expect to feel different, to discover a sign, a rash, a scar, a mysterious mark that might hint at a change. But when you slide out of bed and pad across the creaking floorboards, nothing seems out of place. Your hand, the one that touched the bark, is whole and ordinary. The morning passes as it always does. You sweep the yard, feed the chickens, and avoid the suspicious eye of your grandmother, who always seems to know when you are up to something. For a while, you almost forget about the tree and the strange hush that clung to you as you hurried home. It is easy, you tell yourself, to invent mysteries in the dark. In the daylight, with the smell of baking bread and the clatter of wooden pails, nothing seems magical or dangerous, only real and faintly tiresome. But as the day wears on, little things begin to change. You are the first to notice, of course. You have always noticed things that others miss. The way the sparrows fight over the crumbs outside the door, the pattern of clouds that always seems to gather over the hill where the oak stands. Today, you hear something else, a faint buzzing, not unlike the hum of summer insects, only it is not summer and there are no insects. At first, you ignore it. You are scrubbing potatoes in the wash basin, and the sound seems to be coming from the window. But when you look out, you see only the muddy yard and the family dog, old Toma, sprawled in the weak sunlight. Toma lifts his head and looks at you, his eyes bright, almost curious. Such a waste, these peels. Why not let me have them? I could bury them or eat them or just roll in them for fun. People do not know what to do with good things. The thought comes to you fully formed, not in words exactly, but in a jumble of longing, complaint, and images of dirt and bones. It takes a moment before you realize that the buzzing is not a sound at all. It is Toma, the dog, and somehow you know what he is thinking. You drop a potato. Startled, Toma's tail thumps against the ground. Yes, yes, the peels. Give me the peels, or at least a bit of cheese rind. No one ever listens. The world seems to shift around you. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see your brother playing a trick or your grandmother watching from the shadows. But there is only you and Toma and the strange, wordless understanding that hangs in the air. You shake your head, rub your eyes, and try to focus on your chores. But the voices do not stop. When you go to the chicken coop, you hear a chattering chorus of worries and complaints. Too cold, too damp. Where is the corn? Did you hear the fox last night? I did. I always hear the fox. Foxes are the worst. It is dizzying, the constant stream of noise, all layered and overlapping. The chickens have opinions about everything: the color of the sky, the sharpness of the straw, the pecking order of the flock. Their minds are full of quick, sharp thoughts, like pebbles thrown into a pond. You try to tell someone. You open your mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. The words die on your tongue, slipping away before you can form them. You cough, try again, and again there is only silence. Your brother, seeing your distress, laughs. Cat got your tongue? He teases. You want to shout, "No, it is the oak, it is the tree," but all that comes out is a faint croak. Your family shrugs and returns to their work. After a while, they seem to forget you are even there. It is worse when you go outside. The birds in the trees, the cows in the distant fields, even the flies buzzing near the compost heap, they all have thoughts, little fragments of desire and complaint that slip into your head whether you want them or not. You sit down behind the barn and press your hands over your ears, but it makes no difference. The thoughts are not coming from outside. They are inside you now, an endless, rambling monologue of everything that walks, flies, crawls, or swims in the village. You spend the afternoon in a daze, drifting through your chores like a ghost. The world is too loud, too crowded, and you have never felt so alone. You long to speak, to ask someone what is happening to you, but the words will not come. Instead, you listen to the sighs of the sheep, the plodding of the crows, the anxious muttering of the mice in the pantry. That night, you lie awake and listen to Toma snoring softly by the door. His dreams drift through your mind, running through tall grass, chasing shadows, basking in the sun. It is comforting in its way. You close your eyes and let yourself drift with him, wondering if this is what it means to be mad, or if you have simply stepped sideways into another world. You remember the feeling of the oak's bark beneath your palm, the deep grooves, the slow heartbeat. You wonder what else the tree has given you and what it has taken away. You wonder if you will ever speak again. You wonder, most of all, if you want to. The days after your encounter with the oak unfold with the steady, relentless pace of rain on a tin roof. You try, with the stubborn hope of the desperate, to return to your old routines. You milk the goat before dawn, gather eggs from the nervous hens, and haul buckets of water from the well, all without speaking. Your family adjusts quickly to your silence. Perhaps it is easier for them not to notice change. In a village where everyone is busy from sunrise to sunset, it does not take long for a single quiet child to slip from the center of attention. If your family suspects anything, they keep it to themselves. Your grandmother, sharp-eyed and unsentimental, seems only mildly annoyed by your new reticence. All the better, she mutters, as you chop onions in silence. Less trouble and chatter. Your younger brother delights in your inability to answer back, inventing elaborate stories at your expense. You let him. In truth, you hardly care. The world of people is receding, and you are drifting toward another shore. It is not loneliness you feel, or rather, it is not the familiar kind. There is no absence of voices. On the contrary, there are too many. The village is alive in ways you had never imagined. You walk the muddy lanes, and the thoughts of animals press against you from all sides. The old horse in the smithy, who dreams only of green grass and a world without harnesses. The wary barn cats who see the village as an endless puzzle of places to hide and sleep. The ever present dogs whose hearts are open books, filled with loyalty, hunger, and a longing for praise. Sometimes the animal thoughts are so loud you have to stop and lean against a fence post just to keep your balance. Once, near the well, a flock of sparrows descends on you like a rainstorm. Their voices are quicksilver, darting in and out of your mind, all frantic hunger and urgent warnings about the cat. Seeds, seeds, is that a crumb? Watch out, danger, fly now. You stagger back, startled, and the other villagers glance at you, puzzled. You wish you could explain, but your tongue is useless, floppy and stubborn in your mouth, incapable of shaping even the simplest sound. You start to learn the language of the animals, if it can be called a language at all. It is not made of words, but of sensations, impressions, memories. You learn that the crows are suspicious and brilliant, that the sheep have 1,000 names for grass, that the piglets are born philosophers, always questioning the nature of mud and food. Some days you find a strange kind of comfort in this constant, invisible chatter. The animals speak of simple things: food, warmth, danger, comfort. Their worries are immediate and real. You envy their certainty, their lack of self doubt. You begin to spend more time among them, letting their thoughts fill the emptiness where your own voice once was. But there are dangers in this new world. The thoughts of animals are not at always kind. You discover, to your dismay, that the mice in your own kitchen regard you with a mixture of fear and scorn. The big one is clumsy. The big one smells of soap and dirt. Watch out for the boots. Hide when it is light. There is a crack behind the oven. Their contempt stings, though you know it is not personal. The mice have no patience for self-pity. Survival is their only concern. You begin to keep track of the different voices. The village becomes a map of animal minds. There are places you now avoid: the pig pen, which is a deafening chaos of hunger and curiosity; the riverbank, where the frogs sing endless, looping songs of water and moonlight. Other places become refuges: the empty barn at midday, where the drowsy cows think only of sleep; the shaded orchard, where the magpies gossip like old women. One morning, while you are gathering wood near the edge of the village, you notice old Toma padding along behind you. The dog is your most loyal companion these days. You do not need to call him. He comes of his own accord, thoughts trailing behind him like the smell of earth after rain. This is good. We are going somewhere. Something interesting. Perhaps food, perhaps not. But it is good to be together. It is good to walk in the morning. For a while, you walk in silence, comforted by the simplicity of Toma's company. You wonder what he makes of your silence, if he misses your words, or if your shared understanding has made words unnecessary. As you cross the lane by the church, you catch a fragment of thought that is not Toma's. It is sharper, quicker, edged with hunger and amusement. Foolish dog, foolish child, always looking for something, never satisfied. You glance up to see a sleek black cat perched on a fence post, its green eyes fixed on you. For a moment, you are startled. You have never heard the thoughts of this cat before. You pause, and the cat flicks its tail, sending a ripple of irony through the air. So you hear us now. Welcome, voiceless one. You are not the first. You will not be the last. The cat leaps down and disappears into the tall grass. Tama bristles, but you put a calming hand on his head. The cat's words, or whatever they are, echo in your mind long after the animal is gone. Not the first, not the last. The rest of the day passes in a blur. You gather wood, tend to chores, and try not to dwell on the cat's message. But the question lingers. How many others have touched the oak? What happened to them? Did they learn to live in this world between worlds, or were they driven mad by the constant, insistent noise? That night, you lie awake listening to the chorus of animal dreams. Outside, an owl hoots. Its mind is a cold, silent blade. In the barn, the cows sigh and turn, their dreams slow and heavy. Even the mice, for once, seem peaceful. You close your eyes and let their thoughts carry you away, wondering what tomorrow will bring and how many more secrets the village is willing to surrender. The next day, you wake determined to try again to speak. You have spent hours rehearsing the sounds in your head, imagining the shape of words on your lips. In the heavy blue dawn, you whisper to the rafters of your room, your voice little more than a breath. Nothing happens. The word you shape, bread, morning, even your own name, evaporates in your mouth like dew. Frustration wells up inside you, prickling behind your eyes, hot and pointless. How can a single tree strip you of your voice so thoroughly? You push away the anger. There are always chores to be done, even for the voiceless. You trudge outside, basket in hand, to collect eggs. The chickens, still groggy with sleep, startle at your approach, sending up a burst of feathery, anxious thoughts. Why is the sun so slow today? Food? Food now? That one again? The silent one. Does it bring corn or just stares? Watch the feet. Always watch the feet. You scoop the eggs into your basket, listening with half an ear to their noisy monologue. For a moment, you are tempted to answer, just to see if you can, but the idea of clucking back at them in front of your grandmother is enough to keep your beak, so to speak, firmly shut. You pass your younger brother near the well. He is chasing after the neighbor's dog, shrieking with the wild joy only children and madmen seem to possess. He sees you and stops, smirking. You gone dumb forever? He asks, his voice carrying a note of both mockery and hope. Maybe the fairies stole your tongue. He sticks his own tongue out, crossing his eyes, and you roll your own eyes in response, wishing he could hear even a fraction of what you hear now. You try to answer. You open your mouth, and this time you push, really push, against the silence. The sound that escapes you is neither word nor cry. It is a low, hoarse rasp, more animal than human. Your brother's face shifts from smugness to concern. He stares at you for a heartbeat, then runs off, presumably to tell tales about his siblings' further descent into madness. Your mother, meanwhile, pretends not to notice. She hands you a bundle of washed clothes, points to the line, and returns to kneading dough, lips pressed tight. Her silence feels heavier than yours. You wander out to the drying line, pinning shirts and socks in the wind. It is not a difficult task, but today your hands tremble. The air is crowded with animal voices. Crows on the thatched roof cackle among themselves. The wind is sharp today. Watch the child, the silent one, always watching, always listening, knows too much or nothing at all. Bread crusts by the window, someone should steal them. Their tone is mocking, but not unkind. Crows, you learn, find amusement in everything. You wonder if they understand your predicament. You wonder if they care. You try to remember the day before the oak, the way the village sounded then. It is difficult. Even your memories feel rewritten, crowded by 1,000 animal voices. Were things always so noisy, or have you simply been deaf all your life? Later, as you fetch water from the well, you hear it again, a chorus of whispers, not quite words, not quite noise. You turn in a slow circle, searching for the source. It is the sheep in the far field, their woolly minds full of small, repetitive thoughts. Eat, walk, sun, itch, eat. The grass is thin here, the grass is better there. Walk, eat, rest. The dog is sleeping, now is safe. Walk, eat. You watch them graze and find yourself roundly comforted by the simplicity of their existence. How restful it must be to have only one concern at a time. Your mind drifts as you carry the bucket home. You realize that in a way, you have become invisible to the villagers. They see you, of course. How could they not? But they no longer expect anything from you. No stories, no answers, not even greetings. You have become a sort of shadow, moving at the edges of daily life, unseen and unremarked. If this is a curse, it is a curious one, but there are small mercies in your new silence. With no one to talk to, no one expects you to lie, to flatter, to argue. You are not called upon to explain yourself or anyone else. You are left to observe, to listen, to notice all the things that everyone else is too busy or too loud to see. By midday, you find yourself at the edge of the fields, watching the clouds drift over the hill where the oak stands. The sight of the tree fills you with a mixture of dread and longing. You know you should stay away, but it calls to you in the silent, persistent way that only dangerous things can. You sit in the grass, knees drawn to your chest, and try to clear your mind. The animals do not grant you peace, of course. The insects alone are a constant chorus, their minds filled with endless, buzzing tasks. Find, build, carry, eat, hide, repeat. Somewhere nearby, a magpie lands in the grass, its thoughts bright and sharp. Shiny thing. Is it a button? Is it food? The silent one looks sad. Pity. Cannot eat sadness. Shiny is better. You cannot help but laugh, though the sound is nothing more than a breath through your nose. The magpie hops closer, cocking its head. For a moment, you feel as if you are on the verge of understanding something important, something about the world that only magpies and crows and perhaps silent children can know. The moment passes. The magpie darts away, chasing some new shiny object, and you are left alone with your thoughts, both human and otherwise. That evening, you try once more to speak. You stand by the hearth while your family eats, the warmth of the fire licking at your hands. You close your eyes, gather your courage, and force the words out. Nothing, only silence, thick and final. You open your eyes and see your family watching you, uncertain, wary. You smile or try to, and sit down with your bowl of stew. The silence is not so bad, you tell yourself. There are other ways to understand, other ways to be. Outside, in the gathering dark, the animals settle in for the night. Their thoughts wash over you, a low, ceaseless tide. You listen, letting their dreams carry you into sleep, wondering, half hopeful, half afraid, what you will hear tomorrow. As the days begin to stretch and blend into one another, you find yourself drawn ever deeper into the hidden lives of the village animals. You no longer bother to fight the current. You let their thoughts flow through you, carrying you from one small drama to the next. It is easier than thinking about your own troubles. Sometimes it even feels like living. Old Toma, your steadfast companion, now seems convinced that you are more dog than human. He pads after you everywhere, his thoughts circling yours like a protective wind. Good. We walk, smells different. You are quiet now, like a proper dog, not noisy, not silly. Quiet ones see more, quiet ones hear more. Maybe today is the day for bones. It amuses you, the idea of being a proper dog. You watch the way Toma moves, his head always low, his nose forever twitching at invisible scents, and try to imagine the world as he does. Sometimes you almost succeed. You understand now that for a dog, the world is made of smells. The sharp tang of fox near the coop, the distant trace of a hare in the hedgerow, the promise of meat somewhere beyond the woodpile. Even the people in the village are just collections of scents and habits. One afternoon, you linger near the stable, letting the sun warm your back. The horses inside are resting, their thoughts drifting like lazy clouds. Grass, sleep. The bridle pinches, the boy with the red cap is late. Grass again. Rest. Their minds are calm, slow moving, unbothered by the rush of human worries. You lean against the rough boards and let yourself sink into their contentment. For the first time in days, you feel at ease. But peace is always temporary. The animal's thoughts are not all gentle or innocent. The crows, for example, are sharp and suspicious, always searching for secrets to exploit. What does the silent one want? Always watching, always listening, knows too much. Tread carefully. A story is worth more than a crumb. One of the crows, larger than the rest, with a patch of missing feathers, hops down from the fence and studies you with bright, calculating eyes. Heard you lost your tongue to the old one on the hill. Happens to the clever, happened before. Will happen again. Why so curious, silent one? You meet the crow's gaze and try to send a thought back, something like, "Why do you care?" The crow only cackles, the sound echoing in your head like the clatter of stones in a bucket. Curiosity feeds the clever, but it starves the foolish. Mind your step. You are not sure if it is a warning or a joke. With crows, it is usually both. You begin to wonder if there are limits to this new gift or curse. Each day brings fresh revelations, some fascinating, others unsettling. You can hear the conversations of animals you once ignored, the idle dreams of the barn cats who imagine themselves tigers, feared by all, the endless complaints of the sheep who believe the grass in the next field is always sweeter, the frantic, looping thoughts of the mice who see the world as a labyrinth of hiding places and dangers. The more you listen, the more you realize how little you ever knew of the world around you. Animals, it turns out, are not simple at all. They have their own hierarchies, rivalries, and alliances. The chickens have a pecking order more complicated than the king's court. The sparrows bicker over seeds and stories with equal passion. Even the lowly beetles beneath your feet are embroiled in constant battles for turf and mates. But with all this knowledge comes a certain restlessness. You cannot help but long for human company, real conversation, a kind face, a word or two spoken just for you. You try from time to time to rejoin the village's daily life. You sit near the fire at night, nodding and smiling, hoping that someone will draw you in. Sometimes they do, for a moment, but as soon as they realize you cannot answer, they turn away, uncomfortable. There is one evening when your father, silent and gruff, sits beside you with a cup of steaming broth. He does not say much. He only looks at you for a long moment, his gaze heavy with questions he does not know how to ask. In the quiet, you almost believe that he understands, that he remembers what it is like to be wordless in a world built on words. Then he stands, pats your shoulder once, and returns to his place by the hearth. The moment is gone. Your new reality does not go unnoticed forever. The village priest, a thin man with an impressive beard, begins to watch you with open suspicion. He mutters prayers when you pass, clutches his beads a little tighter. Perhaps he sees in you an omen or a warning. Children whisper behind your back. Some make the sign against evil, others follow you at a distance, daring each other to touch your coat as if you might bite. It stings, but not as much as you expect. You have grown used to being an outsider, hovering at the edge of things. Besides, the animals do not judge you. They have accepted you as one of their own, in their own strange, indifferent way. You find yourself talking to them, silently, of course, confiding worries and questions, seeking comfort. Old Toma is always willing to listen, his tail thumping the earth in agreement with everything you think. The cats, more aloof, offer only cryptic advice. Sleep in the sun, watch from the shadows, trust no one, steal what you can. You suspect that cats would give the same advice to a king or a thief. Your days become a tapestry of animal thoughts, woven through with moments of uneasy peace. You learn to avoid the busiest places, to seek out quiet corners where the din of minds is not so overwhelming. Sometimes you take long walks in the woods, letting the forest speak to you in its own slow, ancient voice. Grow, change, wait, remember. The forest does not care about your troubles. It has seen countless lives come and go, felt countless hands on its bark. Compared to the oak, you are a passing shadow. You wonder sometimes what would happen if you left the village altogether. Would the voices follow you? Or is your curse, your gift, tied to this place, this soil, this ancient tree? For now, you stay. The village may not welcome you, but it is the only home you know. Besides, there is a strange satisfaction in listening, in knowing all the secret lives that flourish in the corners and shadows. You are invisible, but you are everywhere. You are voiceless, but you hear everything. And as the days drift onward, you begin to wonder, perhaps that is enough. Time in the village passes with the grinding inevitability of the seasons. The wheat grows taller, the lambs become sheep, and the days unfurl one after another in a long gray ribbon. For everyone else, life continues its sleepy, circular way. For you, the world has become a place both busier and lonelier than you ever imagined. Sometimes it feels as though you are living at the bottom of a well, listening to the echoes of lives not quite your own. By now, the cacophony of animal voices has become your constant companion. If anything, their company grows richer and more complicated as you learn to distinguish between the overlapping thoughts, picking out individual threads from the relentless tapestry of animal monologue. It is a peculiar sort of talent, useful only to the most peculiar of people. You suppose you are now one of them. You come to appreciate the hidden lives of the less glamorous creatures. Mice, for instance, are tireless chroniclers of the kitchen's secrets, reporting every crumb and shadow, every subtle shift in your grandmother's footsteps. The cats are uninterested in such gossip, except when it involves the possibility of a midnight snack. In fact, cats are the philosophers of the animal world, preoccupied with questions of territory and the metaphysical difference between sleeping in the sun and sleeping in the shade. Chickens, meanwhile, are endlessly anxious, always worried about rain, hawks, pecking order, and the relative fairness of corn distribution. Even insects, whom you once dismissed as simple and oblivious, possess a relentless industry and a single mindedness that makes your own confusion feel almost embarrassing. The hive mind of bees whispers to you from the garden, a stream of directives and calculations, none of which make any sense unless you happen to be a bee. You are often reminded that, for all their noise, animals have little patience for the deeper mysteries of the world. The great questions that trouble you, why you lost your voice, what secret the oak guards, whether your fate can be reversed, are of no interest to cows or crows or even the cleverest magpie. Animals care about now: food, warmth, territory, danger. You too begin to drift toward this kind of thinking, as if the animal voices are slowly overriding the patterns of your own mind. You try to resist. On days when the sky is clear and the world smells of grass and river mud, you climb the hill and watch the oak from a safe distance. You wonder if it is watching you in return. Sometimes you imagine that it is waiting for something, though you cannot say what. Occasionally, you meet other people at the edge of the village. They pass you with wary glances, muttering under their breath. They do not bother to hide their suspicion anymore. The tale of the silent child has become a fixture of village gossip, joining the stories of one-eyed goats and haunted barns. Some say you are cursed. Others say you have simply lost your mind. A few, in their kinder moments, suggest that perhaps you are blessed in some strange, incomprehensible way. No one, of course, asks for your opinion. Your only real conversations are with the animals. Their honesty is bracing, if not always comforting. The pigs, for example, are proud of their cleverness and quick to judge the shortcomings of everyone else. Humans are clumsy, always dropping things, always shouting, never listening. Only the quiet ones are worth talking to. You are quiet. You might be almost a pig if you tried harder. You accept this backhanded compliment as graciously as you can. Even pigs have their standards. Your dreams, too, have begun to change. Some nights you dream in animal voices, caught up in the frantic world of the chicken coop or the cold, solitary hunger of the barn owl. Other nights you drift through the village as an unseen shadow, listening to conversations that no one else hears. It is a strange, exhausting existence, and you often wake more tired than when you fell asleep. One gray afternoon, as rain drums steadily on the cottage roof, you sit by the window and watch the garden turn to mud. Old Toma is at your feet, snoring and twitching in his sleep. His dreams are uncomplicated: endless fields, warm hands, the comforting rhythm of walking beside you. You envy his certainty. Toma knows who he is and what he wants. He wants nothing more than to be with you, to walk, to eat, to sleep. His world is small and manageable, and you wonder what it would be like to live inside such simplicity. But you cannot. Even stripped of speech, you are still not a dog, or a sheep, or a crow. You are something in between, stranded on the edge of two worlds. Your family grows used to your silence as people do. Your grandmother stops expecting answers, and your brother eventually loses interest in tormenting you. Life settles into a pattern. You fetch water, you gather eggs, you listen, you try not to think too much about what you have lost. On market days, when the village swells with strangers and their animals, the voices are almost overwhelming. You linger at the edge of the crowd, ears ringing with 1,000 conversations. The bellow of oxen from distant farms, the clipped orders of nervous horses, the secret, seething plans of city rats who have stowed away in barrels. Once, as you stand near the baker's stall, you catch the thoughts of a traveling peddler's monkey, quick, sharp, filled with longing for the forest and a hatred of the little red cap its owner makes it wear. Stupid hat, stupid man, too many smells. Apples are good. Run away, run away. You lock eyes with the monkey, and for a moment you share an understanding so sudden and intense it nearly knocks you sideways. The monkey bares its teeth in a grin that is not at all friendly, then disappears behind a pile of crates. You wonder if there are others like you, scattered in villages and towns across the countryside. People who touched the wrong tree, or made the wrong wish, or simply listened too closely when the world was whispering. You wonder if they have found ways to live with their curse, or if they have been driven mad by the unending noise. For now you survive. You tell yourself that is enough. You find your quiet corners. You cherish the animal friendships that offer you a different sort of belonging, and you try not to dwell too long on what you have lost. If you are neither entirely animal nor entirely human, then you must be something else, something that does not have a name and perhaps never will. At night, you lie awake and listen to the gentle breathing of old Toma, the restless scratching of mice, the soft flutter of bats in the rafters. Their thoughts pass through you, weaving into your dreams, leaving you not quite alone and not quite at home. In the darkness, you make peace with your strange fate, if only for a little while. You try to ignore the new boundaries in your life, but the line between you and the other villagers only grows thicker. It is not a wall, exactly, more like a slow, spreading fog. It curls around you in the market, in the fields, even in the kitchen at dawn. Every morning you wake to the same silence, not just your own, but that of your family, who have learned to talk around you instead of with you. Their conversations skip over you like flat stones on a pond. You are present, but you are not included. At first, you try to maintain some semblance of your old life. You nod at the right moments, smile when appropriate, lend a hand with chores. Your mother pats your shoulder when you pass. Your brother tosses you a crust of bread at lunch. But the words never come, and your gestures never quite reach across the growing gap. In time, everyone stops waiting for your replies. It becomes easier for them to pretend you were never meant to answer in the first place. You are not sure if it is their silence that drives you further from them or your own. Perhaps it is both. Perhaps it is something older and deeper, wound through the roots of the village itself. You begin to suspect that the oak's curse is less a punishment than an invitation to step sideways, away from the bright noise of human lives and into a different kind of world. You drift through your days like a ghost, learning to find solace in places no one else cares to look. You visit the chickens, whose endless worries now strike you as comic relief. You help old Toma patrol the edges of the fields, listening to his steady, hopeful thoughts. You linger near the barn at dusk, when the cow's dreams are thick and slow, like syrup poured over bread. You also become acquainted with new fears. The animal's thoughts are not always benign. The crows have a cruel sense of humor, which you suspect is their way of coping with the boredom of village life. The silent one is back. Watch him trip over the bucket. How many times today? 4 already. Let us make it 5. They spread rumors in the animal world, just as people do among themselves. Once, a cluster of sparrows accuses you, quite seriously, of hiding crumbs in your pockets and refusing to share. Another time, the cats mutter that you have learned their secrets and will sell them to the highest bidder, perhaps the butcher's dog, who has dreams of grandeur far beyond his actual talents. You try to reason with them, but animal minds do not reason as humans do. Their logic is their own, both simple and deeply tangled. You find yourself apologizing for things you have never done, defending yourself against charges you barely understand. If nothing else, your new life has made you an expert in the art of apology. Yet, for all the chaos and bickering, you also witness moments of astonishing tenderness. The horse in the smithy, who has lost a friend, dreams each night of running through endless fields. The smallest mouse in the pantry is afraid of everything, but always shares her crumbs with her brother. Even the magpies, notorious thieves, have a code. A shiny thing, once stolen, cannot be stolen again, at least not until the next rain. In time, you come to understand that the animal world, for all its noise and nonsense, is built on its own kind of loyalty and law. There is comfort in this. The animals cannot fill the emptiness left by human silence, but they offer you a place of, however odd and uncertain, in their community. You watch the seasons turn, taking careful note of small changes. The air grows heavier as autumn creeps in, bringing with it the sharp tang of rotting leaves and the distant promise of snow. The village prepares for winter in the only way it knows how, by working harder, hoarding every crumb, every stick of firewood. The animals, too, grow restless. The sparrows cluster together, the sheep huddle tighter at night, and the cats, who hate the cold, sulk under the eaves, dreaming of brighter days. Your own dreams shift and darken. You begin to see the oak more often, not just on the hill, but in your sleep. Sometimes the tree is enormous, filling the sky with its twisted branches. Other times, it is small enough to fit in your hands, a black knot of roots and bark. You wake with the taste of earth in your mouth and a longing you cannot explain. One afternoon, as you gather firewood, you find yourself at the edge of the village near the stream. A fox passes by, clever and aloof, its thoughts slick as water. Hide, hunt, watch the silent one. Something wrong there, smells different, like rain before a storm. Move on. The fox does not linger, and neither do you. Still, the words cling to you, echoing in the quiet spaces of your mind. Something wrong. You cannot deny it. You are no longer what you once were. Whether that makes you less or more, you cannot say. Your grandmother, who seems to grow older with every week, sits by the fire one night and tells stories to your brother. You listen from the shadows, unnoticed. She speaks of things older than the village, of spirits and curses, of bargains made and broken. She does not mention the oak by name, but you hear it in her voice, coiled like a snake behind every word. Some things are best left alone, she says, staring into the flames. Some things do not care if you understand them or not. They only want to be remembered. Your brother shrugs, already drifting toward sleep. But you hold the story close, rolling it over in your mind like a stone in your pocket. You wonder if she is speaking to you, if she knows more than she lets on. The next morning, you wake to find a thin frost on the ground. The world looks new and sharp, as if it has been washed clean. The animals are quieter, their thoughts muted by the cold. You breathe in the frozen air and feel, for a moment, almost at peace. You no longer try to force yourself back into the life you have lost. Instead, you move forward, step by small step, into the strange country that has claimed you. The path is not easy, and there are days when you stumble, but there are also days when you find, in the quiet, a kind of freedom. You have become, at last, a listener, one who hears what others miss, who moves through the world not with words, but with an understanding. And for now, that is enough. You notice him first at the edge of the square, beneath the crooked willow by the bakery. The village fool, though no one remembers his real name, if he ever had one. His hair is straw yellow and wild, his clothes patched and far too thin for the season. He spends his days ambling from house to house, sometimes muttering to himself, sometimes simply watching the clouds roll by. The children throw pebbles at him when no one is looking, and the adults tolerate him with the same wary resignation they reserve for crows and the first frost of autumn. Today, though, the fool's gaze lingers on you. It is not a vacant or mindless stare. His eyes are sharp, almost cunning, as if he sees something that the others cannot. You do not know why you meet his gaze, but you cannot look away. There is something about the way he looks at you, unsettling and familiar, like a half remembered dream. You go about your day as usual, fetching water, feeding animals, mending a fence that always leans, no matter how many times you straighten it. But everywhere you go, the fool is not far behind, always at the edge of your vision. He hums a song you cannot place, off key and meandering, but it gets stuck in your head all the same. The animals are wary of him too. Old Toma, usually brave to the point of foolishness, keeps his distance. The chickens scatter when the fool passes, clucking and flapping as if chased by a fox. Even the crows, those connoisseurs of oddity, watch him with more curiosity than mockery. He sees too much, a crow remarks from the roof, tilting its glossy head. Sees between things, like us, but not like us. Maybe more dangerous, maybe not dangerous at all. You try to ignore both the fool and the crow, but neither is easily dismissed. By noon, the fool has circled closer, trailing you like a shadow that refuses to stay put. At last, while you chop wood behind your cottage, he approaches. He says nothing, only watches, rocking slightly from foot to foot. You pause, axe in hand, and meet his gaze. For a moment, the world narrows. Just you and him and the long, crooked line of shadow on the ground. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a tiny object wrapped in a scrap of cloth. He holds it out with trembling fingers, eyes never leaving yours. You take it, more curious than wary, and peel away the cloth. Inside is a wooden figurine no bigger than your thumb. It is a crude carving of an oak tree, gnarled and ancient, with roots that seem to twist out of the wood and branches that claw at the air. Despite its roughness, there is something unsettlingly true about it. You can almost feel the weight of centuries pressed into its shape. The fool nods as if satisfied and shuffles away, leaving you alone with the figurine. You turn it over in your palm, tracing the lines of bark and root with your finger. It feels oddly warm, as if it has been sitting in the sun. You slip it into your pocket, unsure whether you have just been given a gift, a warning, or something else entirely. That night, you dream of the oak. The dream is thick and tangled, like walking through a forest at midnight. You see the tree as it once was, young and green, its roots shallow and eager. You see people gathered beneath its branches, speaking in hushed voices. Their faces are blurred, but their hands are clear. Each person touches the tree, some gently, some in desperation, all leaving something behind. You wake before dawn, breathless and cold, the figurine still clutched in your hand. The cottage is quiet, but outside, the animal voices are restless, fragments of dream leaking into the waking world. The tree remembers. The tree never forgets. Do not trust gifts from fools. You turn the figurine over, searching for meaning in its rough lines. There is a notch at the base, worn smooth by countless fingers. You wonder who carved it and how many hands have held it before yours. For days after, the fool is nowhere to be seen. The village is quieter, as if holding its breath. The animals, too, seem subdued. Even the crows keep their clever remarks to themselves. Only the oak remains unchanged, a dark shape against the sky, unmoved by the concerns of people or beasts. Your family notices your distraction, though they do not ask about it. You are, after all, the silent one, and silence is a kind of permission, an excuse for others to ignore your troubles. You carry the figurine everywhere, tucked deep in your pocket. Sometimes you press it to your lips, as if hoping it might teach you a word you have forgotten. One morning, as you tend to the goats, you sense a change in the air. The animals are uneasy. The oldest goat, usually indifferent to everything but thistles, glances at you with wary eyes. Not safe. The fool's gift is not safe. Old things should stay buried, roots should stay hidden. You wish you could ask her what she means, but her thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. You begin to notice other oddities. The crows gather in unusual numbers, muttering among themselves. The cats avoid the kitchen, huddling together in the hayloft, fur bristling with unspoken fear. Even old Toma, who normally meets every day with the dumb joy of the very young and the very old, seems troubled. He sticks closer to you, his thoughts tinged with confusion. Stay close, bad dreams in the air. The silent one is worried, so I am worried. Something is wrong, but I do not know what. You start to wonder if the fool has given you more than a carving. Perhaps the figurine is a message, or a key, or a piece of a puzzle you have yet to solve. Or perhaps it is just what it seems, a small token passed from one outcast to another, meant to say, you are not alone in your strangeness. You remember the dream, the oak, the people, the sense of loss hanging over everything. You remember the warning in the goat's thoughts. You remember the fool's eyes, bright and knowing. You do not know what to do with any of it. And so you do what you have always done. You listen, you watch, you wait for the world to reveal its secrets in its own slow, stubborn way. In the end, it is not wisdom or courage that guides you, but curiosity, an animal instinct, as old and stubborn as the oak itself. The village grows restless as the days shorten and the air sharpens, the wind now cold enough to crack the surface of the puddles each morning. Even the adults, whose routines are as worn and repetitive as the paths through the fields, seem unsettled. Something has shifted, though no one can quite name what it is. It would be easy to blame the coming winter, or the threat of a poor harvest, or even the shadowy stories that children swap by candlelight. But you, with your silent days and animal company, sense that the root of the unease is deeper, older, and tangled beneath the surface like the roots of the oak. You keep the figurine close, its worn curves a constant reminder of the fool and the dream. Sometimes you take it out and turn it in your hands, tracing the rough outline of the roots, feeling for a secret message or a hidden door. You find nothing, but the habit is hard to break. Old Toma eyes the figurine warily each time, his thoughts uneasy. Strange smell, old wood, old magic. Do not trust it, bury it, hide it, throw it in the river, but do not carry it close to your heart. You wonder if Toma is simply echoing the same animal caution that warned you against the tree itself, or if he understands something you do not. The other animals are of little help. The hens offer only endless gossip about the state of the weather and the unfairness of your egg collecting schedule. The sheep, when pressed, can only repeat that the grass by the oak is wrong, not bitter or sweet, simply wrong, a concept as vague and unsettling as a half remembered nightmare. But it is the crows who finally offer a piece of the truth, though in their fashion it comes tangled in riddles and pecks. Not the first, not the last, never the last. Old tree, old story, every generation, one or two. Some come back, some go away forever. Roots remember, branches forget. Stones listen, but do not speak. You stare at the crow, wishing it would be less poetic and more precise. But poetry is all the crows seem to know. The message, however, sticks with you. You are not the first to be changed by the oak, and you will not be the last. The figurine is proof, you realize. Someone carved it, someone carried it, someone left it behind for the fool to find. Your curiosity, always your undoing, pushes you to learn more. You begin to ask questions in the only way you can, by listening. At the market, you loiter by the stalls, pretending to browse for apples while the donkey's tired mind hums with memories of distant roads and strange scents. In the barn, you sit quietly, letting the cow's slow thoughts swirl around you, thick and sweet and mostly empty. Occasionally, a cat will drop a hint, a half thought wrapped in purring sarcasm. You are clever, but not clever enough. The old ones knew more, but they are gone, too curious for their own good. Curiosity is dangerous, except for cats, of course. You begin to piece together a shadowy history. The oak has always been here, older than the village, older than the road, older than the tales the grandmothers tell when they think no one is listening. It is a boundary between fields, between villages, between worlds. Every so often, someone touches it, sometimes on a dare, sometimes out of desperation, sometimes out of sheer boredom. Always, there are consequences. You hear rumors, scraps of stories, none of them spoken to you, but all of them find their way to your ears. There was once a woman who lived alone on the edge of the forest, talking to birds and never seen at market. There was a boy who vanished one winter's night, only to return in spring, different, silent, and odd, haunted by the songs of wolves. There was an old man who spoke in riddles, understood by no one, who left behind a box of carvings when he died. All of them touched the tree. All of them became something other. You feel less alone and more frightened. The fate you share is not unique, but it is still a fate. No one speaks of anyone finding a way back. The world, it seems, tolerates the silent ones, but does not welcome them. You begin to wonder if the fool, your fool, the one who gave you the figurine, was once like you. You watch him from a distance, noting the way he tilts his head as he listens to the wind, the way he follows birds with his eyes, the way animals give him a wider berth than they do even to you. Perhaps he, too, once heard the endless conversation of the beasts and was eventually left with nothing but scraps and echoes. At night, you sit by the window and turn the figurine over and over, asking it questions in your mind. What did you lose to the tree? What did you gain? Is there a way to reverse the bargain or only to pass it on? Your family's life continues as it always has, indifferent to your questions. Your brother grows bolder as your silence persists, making up stories about you for the other children. Sometimes he says you were cursed by a witch, other times that you are a witch yourself. Your mother grows quieter, her eyes sadder, but she says nothing. Your grandmother simply watches you, as if measuring the weight of your new silence against the old. One morning, as you pass through the square, you notice a small circle of children gathered around the fool. He is drawing shapes in the dirt with a stick, telling a story in fragments and nonsense. The children giggle and jeer, but you see the concentration in the fool's eyes, the way he marks out a spiral, then a tree, then a figure standing alone beneath the branches. You linger at the edge of the group, unnoticed. The fool's eyes flick up to yours for a moment. He smiles, and in that smile, you see both pity and understanding. a silent greeting from one lost thing to another. As the days darken further, you feel the pull of the oak even more strongly. It is as if the tree itself is waiting for you to come back, to ask the questions you have been circling all this time. The animals notice your distraction. The cats hiss when you pass. The crows grow silent. Even Toma hangs back, his tail tucked low, as if afraid you will vanish altogether. You know that you cannot avoid the tree forever. If there are answers, they wait beneath its branches. If there are others like you, their stories are written in its bark, their voices caught in the rustle of its leaves. For the first time since you lost your voice, you find yourself longing for something more than survival, for understanding, for connection, for a place in the tangled history of the silent ones. You tuck the figurine into your pocket and set your face toward the hill, knowing that soon you will have to return to the oak. Whatever you find there, you will not find it by hiding. You begin to keep a record. It starts as a distraction, a way to fill the silences that now stretched through your days, a way to prove to yourself that you still exist, that your thoughts have not dissolved entirely into the chorus of animal voices. You use what is at hand, a sheet of birch bark peeled carefully from a fallen tree, a stub of charcoal left over from the last winter's fire, a smooth stone to anchor your work when the wind picks up. There is a satisfaction in the ritual, kneeling on the dirt floor beside the hearth, scratching slow lines into bark, your breath mixing with the smoke and the old wood smells. At first, you try to record your own thoughts, but you soon find it is easier to write what you hear from the animals. Their voices are sharper, simpler, harder to misremember. You write down the conversations of the chickens as they squabble in the yard. Cold ground, soft straw, bad worm, big hen always pecks. Tomorrow will rain. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. You write the magpie's inventory, its running list of objects worth stealing. Button, thimble, silver spoon, bread crust, string, bright stone, child's tooth, not shiny enough. You write the dog's longing for a world without fences, for the comforting press of your hand on his head. Good child, kind smell, walk far, run fast, home safe, home safe. The more you write, the more you realize how much the animals see. Their observations are neither cruel nor sentimental, they simply are. The sheep notice every broken fence post, every shadow that lingers too long at the edge of the field. The cows, dull and slow, know when a storm is coming before the air changes. The crows count every crumb on every windowsill and tally every secret whispered in the churchyard. You are struck by how little escapes their notice and how much escapes your own. For a while, this brings you a strange peace. You can lose yourself in the animal world, forgetting the ache in your chest, the raw longing for human speech. The village around you keeps moving at its habitual pace, the slow churn of chores and gossip and small tragedies. If your family notices your new obsession with the scraps of birch bark, they say nothing. Your mother has her own worries, your brother's cough, the leaking roof, the price of salt in the next market town. Your grandmother, perhaps, understands more than she lets on. Sometimes she watches you write, her face unreadable, and sometimes she shakes her head and mutters a prayer under her breath. Your father, taciturn as ever, simply nods if he catches you working, as if the act of recording things is its own kind of language. In the evenings, he sharpens his knife by the fire while you draw careful shapes in the bark: an oak leaf, a crow's feather, a dog's paw. You do not show him your work, but you think he would not disapprove if you did. You soon realize that writing is not enough to bridge the gulf between your world and theirs. So you begin to record the animals' stories too. There is a joy in translating their tangled impressions into something closer to human language. The magpie, for example, recounts the tale of the time she stole a ring from the mayor's wife and hid it in the hollow of the old willow. The ring is still there, she assures you, though it is not as shiny as it once was. The crows, meanwhile, love to argue about philosophy. They debate endlessly about the meaning of wind, whether it is a message from the dead or simply the sky breathing. Their conclusions change with the weather, but they never tire of the argument. You start to wonder whether animals have always thought this way, or if it is only your own mind weaving patterns from the chaos. Either way, your records grow longer and more elaborate. You make a secret game of it, hiding your finished sheets in a clay pot beneath the hearth, as if you are assembling a history that only you can read. One rainy afternoon, you find yourself sketching the oak tree, not as it looks now, but as it appeared in your dream, enormous and young, with roots spreading out like fingers to grip the earth. Around the base of the tree, you draw figures, people and animals mingling together, their shapes barely distinct from one another. The image unsettles you. You cover it with another sheet and press your palm against the rough drawing, feeling for a heartbeat that does not come. The animals notice your writing too. The cats are indifferent unless you happen to drop a piece of charcoal, which they will immediately chase beneath the table. Old Toma, ever loyal, rests his head on your knee as you work, sharing dreams of running through wide fields. The crows, on the other hand, take a keen interest. One morning, a particularly large crow swoops down and snatches a scrap of bark from your hand, flying up to the roof to inspect your work. This is good. This is clever. Humans do not usually listen or remember. Write more about crows. You smile despite yourself and resolve to do just that. The crow, for its part, seems pleased and leaves a shiny pebble on your windowsill the next day, a fair trade in its mind. It is not only the animals who sense a change in you. The fool reappears at the edge of the square, watching you with the same sharp, knowing gaze. Once, he approaches while you are writing outside, squats beside you in the dirt, and draws a circle around you with his finger. He traces the shape of a leaf in the air, then places his hand on your shoulder, as if to say, "You see now." You listen. Then he ambles away, humming to himself. Your dreams grow more vivid as the autumn deepens. You dream of the oak each night, of roots that wind through the soil, of branches that creak like old doors, of faces half hidden among the leaves. Sometimes the tree speaks to you. its voice slow and deep, the words slippery as rain on bark. When you wake, you try to write down what you remember, but the meaning always slips away. The more you write, the more you wonder, is this record for yourself or for the tree? Are you collecting stories to make sense of your own fate or to offer them to the oak, as so many have before you? You do not know, but you cannot stop. The act of recording has become its own answer, a thread you follow through the darkness, hoping it might one day lead you home. For now, you listen, you write, you remember. As the air grows colder and the last yellow leaves cling stubbornly to the trees, you start to notice things, small signs, easily missed, suggesting you are not alone in your strangeness. For weeks, you have been listening to the endless conversations of animals, thinking yourself the village's sole silent outcast. But now you begin to wonder, what if there are others, hidden as carefully as you, half slipped between worlds? It starts with the girl from the far side of the stream. You see her sometimes on market days, trailing behind her mother with a basket of mushrooms or herbs. She never meets anyone's gaze, never joins in the games that tumble down the lane. On a gray morning heavy with mist, you cross paths by the willows. Old Toma, as usual, walks at your side. The girl's dog, a lean, nervous creature with one white ear, pricks its head and regards you both. A ripple of wordless greeting passes between the dogs, an exchange that you cannot help but hear. Safe, friend. Walk together? The girl glances at you, then looks away, but her shoulders soften. She tugs at her dog's collar and disappears into the woods. Still, the moment sticks with you, a small, persistent question. Not long after, you see an old woman gathering herbs in the overgrown cemetery behind the church. She moves quietly, stooping to pluck leaves and roots with nimble fingers. The crows watch her from the branches, their commentary a mixture of respect and suspicion. She knows the names of all the bitter plants, never eats the red berries, speaks to the worms sometimes, not afraid of owls. You pause, feeling a faint resonance, as if the woman's mind hums on a frequency just out of reach. She glances up, meets your eyes, and nods, a tiny, almost invisible gesture, but one that feels charged with meaning. You wonder, as she vanishes among the tombstones, how many others there are who speak in silence, who walk with animal thoughts braided into their own. That evening, as you record the day's animal news, chickens protesting a broken latch, the latest magpie heist, a sheep's heartfelt opinion on the quality of autumn grass, you write down your suspicions. There is a pattern here if you can only decipher it. The oak, the gift of the fool, the stories whispered by crows, all point to a history larger than your own confusion. As the nights lengthen and the first snow dusts the rooftops, your sense of this hidden network grows. Sometimes you spot a boy from the mill slipping into the woods alone, returning hours later with his face streaked in mud and a distant look in his eyes. Once, you find a string of small, careful knots tied into a willow branch, the sort of sign animals use to mark territory, except no animal made these. You touch them, and the faint echo of intention shivers through your skin. There is a house at the very edge of the village, half collapsed, its garden run wild with nettles and stones. No one seems to live there, but you see smoke curling from the chimney on certain mornings. Once, at dusk, you catch sight of a figure in the doorway, a man or a woman, you cannot tell. They lift a hand in greeting. You return the gesture, your heart beating faster, though you cannot say why. Your animal companions are of mixed opinions about these other listeners. Old Toma is content to trust anyone who smells of home and hearth, while the crows are predictably suspicious. Some secrets are better kept, one remarks, pecking at your birch bark diary. Too many silent ones, and the stories get muddled. Who gets to speak for the tree then? Who remembers what is important? You wonder if this is the real reason the oak's gift, or curse, is passed down so sparingly. Too many listeners, and the world might become tangled beyond repair. Or perhaps it is just the tree's way of ensuring its stories are always heard, always remembered, even as faces and voices change. One cold morning, you wake from a dream that is not quite yours. You see the girl from the stream, her dog running ahead, weaving between tree trunks. You follow her through the woods, past a ring of mushrooms, to the base of a great, unfamiliar oak. She kneels, presses her palm to the bark, and listens. A feeling of kinship pulses through you, sharp, bright, undeniable. When you wake, your own hand is pressed to your chest, as if protecting something precious and secret. You decide to seek her out. It takes days of silent watching, but eventually you find her by the old bridge, throwing breadcrumbs to the fish. You approach slowly, old Toma trailing behind, careful not to frighten her. She does not look up as you join her, but she does not move away. Her dog greets Toma with a wag of the tail, and for a time you all simply watch the water swirl beneath the bridge. You think, do you hear them too? But of course she cannot hear your thoughts. Or can she? Her eyes flicker sideways, and a smile tugs at the corner of her mouth. She draws a circle in the dust with her toe, then a crooked tree. Her fingers curl around an invisible branch, and for an instant you feel a current pass between you, a silent recognition, as unmistakable as a bell. You return to your routines, but the world feels different now. Each familiar face might be another like you, each passing glance a coded greeting. Even the fool seems to walk with new purpose, pausing to watch you with a knowing nod. Your writing changes too. You begin to keep a second diary, this one hidden carefully away, in which you record not just the voices of animals, but hints and signs of others like yourself. You keep a tally: the girl, the old woman, the figure in the ruined house, the boy from the mill. Perhaps someday you will gather the courage to speak, or at least to stand together beneath the oak and see what happens when silent ones are not alone. For now, you are content to watch, to wait, to notice the connections forming like frost on a window pane, delicate, intricate, easily shattered, but beautiful in their own right. The oak, when you visit it at twilight, seems somehow less menacing. The roots are as deep, the branches as twisted, But there is a sense of company now, a network of voices humming beneath the surface of the world. You press your hand to the bark, close your eyes, and listen, not for answers, but for the comfort of knowing that you are part of a story still unfolding, written in silence, shared in dreams. One night, sleep comes slow and full of splinters. You toss beneath your rough blanket, listening to the wind scuff the shutters and the restless turning of your family in their beds. The fire has gone to coals, filling the cottage with the scent of ash and old bread. Outside, the animals are quieter than usual, as if waiting for something to begin. It is in this hush, at the tender seam between night and morning, that you slip into the most vivid dream you have ever known. You are walking, barefoot, across the fields, the grass cold and wet beneath your feet. The village is distant and blurred, as if it has been painted in watercolor and left out in the rain. Ahead, the oak rises, impossibly tall, its branches twisting through the clouds like the ribs of a great, ancient beast. You feel neither fear nor urgency, only a gentle pull, like the tug of the tide on a stone. You approach the tree, and as you do, you notice the ground is covered in hundreds of footprints, some large, some small, some so faint they seem pressed only in memory. Each step brings a new sound, not from your own movements, but from the murmuring within the trunk. Voices, hundreds of them, layered together in a slow, steady chant. The language is not quite human, not quite animal, but it is thick with longing and regret. The bark shimmers beneath your hand, alive with stories. Images flicker in the wood, a girl with a crow feather in her hair, a boy with a wolf's tooth on a string, an old man carving shapes into the roots. You realize, with a chill of recognition, that you are seeing the silent ones who came before you, their memories embedded in the tree, living on even as their bodies vanished from the village. You press your palm flat to the oak's trunk. At once, the voices sharpen and surge, no longer a background murmur, but a song sung for you alone. You cannot make out the words, but the feeling is clear: hunger, sorrow, hope, and, threaded through it all, a kind of invitation. The tree is not simply a prison for voices. It is a gate, a keeper, a memory that remembers when everyone else has forgotten. A shape steps from the roots, neither shadow nor substance, but familiar. It is the fool, or perhaps someone like him, wearing a smile as old as the village. He speaks without sound, his mouth forming questions and answers all at once. Why do you listen? What do you seek? Do you remember what you have lost? You try to answer, but your voice will not come. The fool places something in your hand, the figurine of the oak, now pulsing with a warm, golden light. You feel the weight of all the stories you have collected, the lives you have touched, the moments of understanding you have shared with the animals. It is a comfort and a burden. Around you, the other silent ones gather, children and elders, women and men, each bearing the sign of the oak. Some smile, some weep, but none speak aloud. You realize, with a shiver, that they are waiting, not for you to break the silence, but for you to carry it, to add your own story to the roots. You wake with a start, heart racing. For a moment, you are sure you hear the voices from the dream still singing, tangled in the beams of the ceiling. You lie very still, feeling the pressure of the figurine in your hand, though you do not remember reaching for it in your sleep. Dawn creeps gray through the window. Your family stirs, one by one, and the routines of the day begin. You move through your chores like a sleepwalker, unable to shake the echo of the dream. When you go outside, the frost is thin and silver, and the animals watch you with a new kind of respect, or perhaps pity. Old Toma stays close, his thoughts gentle but anxious. You saw it, the old place, the place of roots and shadows. I smelled you dreaming. Do not go too far, silent one. The crows are quieter than usual. One lands near your feet, shuffling in the dead grass. Did you meet them? The others? They do not always come to everyone. Consider yourself lucky or unlucky, depending. You try to focus on the day's work, but the world seems lighter and thinner, as if you might step through the earth itself and fall into another story altogether. The figurine, now a familiar weight in your pocket, feels warmer than before. The dream lingers, not only as memory, but as a change in the way you see the world. You look at the oak, now distant on the hill, and see not only a tree, but a gathering place, a crossroads, a library, a silent congregation waiting to be remembered. Every stone and root feels charged with meaning, as if the village itself is built on the memories of those who lost their voices long ago. You find yourself paying closer attention to the animals, too, the things they leave unsaid, the gaps in their stories. The dog who spends hours staring into the fire, the fox who circles the village but never enters, the owl who flies farther each night. You wonder if they too carry dreams from the roots. When you write in your diary that night, you try to draw what you saw: the great tree, the circle of footprints, the silent crowd. The marks come out crooked and uncertain, but the feeling remains. You finish by tracing your own hand in charcoal, palm open, as if pressing it once again to the bark. That night, as you drift toward sleep, you do not fear the dreams to come. You know now that you are not the only one who listens, not the only one who remembers. The story continues, deeper than words, rooted in the silence you have come to understand, not as a punishment, but as a legacy. And as the wind sings through the branches outside, you think you hear the faintest echo, the oak humming its secrets to all who dare to listen. After the dream, the world does not return to what it was before. You are changed, though outwardly nothing about you is different. The silence that once felt like a wall now seems more like a doorway, one that you can step through if only you are brave enough. The figurine stays with you always, warming your palm when you hold it, growing heavier in your pocket when you wander the village. One chilly morning, drawn by a pull you cannot explain, you walk up the hill to the oak. Frost rims each blade of grass, and the ground is hard beneath your boots. Old Toma follows, trotting at your side, his thoughts a constant, gentle background. Safe, together, watching The hill is old. The tree is older. Be careful, silent one. You stand beneath the oak, looking up at the black twist of its branches against the gray sky. There is no breeze, but the tree creaks anyway, shifting in a rhythm all its own. You press your hand to the trunk, half expecting the surge of voices from your dream. Instead, there is only a low hum, like the earth itself is sleeping. You are not alone. At first, you think you are imagining things, the feeling of being watched, the way the shadows seem to shift at the edge of your vision. Then you see him, a black cat, perched on a root like a king on his throne. His coat glistens in the thin light, and his eyes are yellow and unblinking. He does not run when you approach, nor does he greet you with the wary curiosity of most animals. Instead, his thoughts slide into yours, as cool and deliberate as the brush of his tail. You have come. Good. I do not like to wait, though I have waited longer than you can imagine. Most do not return, but you are not most. Sit. Listen. You obey, lowering yourself onto the cold ground. Old Toma circles the tree, uneasy, but the cat pays him no mind. You want to know what the tree is, the cat continues, his thoughts crisp, as if he has spoken this story many times. You want to know what you have become. Curiosity, always curiosity, such a dangerous and delightful thing. That is why cats survive. That is why some of you do not. He blinks slowly, tail curling over his paws. Listen well, silent one. The oak is older than the village, older than your language, older than the stones you build your hearths with. It was not always a tree. Once it was a boundary, a place where things passed between worlds, spirits, animals, people with hungry hearts and clever hands. The tree remembers all of them. It keeps their secrets and their sorrows, and sometimes it gives a gift, a curse if you are foolish, a blessing if you are wise. You watch the cat's face, trying to read the truth in the sharp gleam of his eyes. Those who touch the tree, he goes on, hear what is hidden from others. The minds of animals, the whispers of roots, the sighs of the earth. But every gift costs something. You lose your voice, the human tongue, that sharp tool for lying and dividing, and gain the speech of those who live in silence. Most cannot bear it. They go mad, or they wander off into the forest and are never seen again. Some, like you, learn to listen. Fewer still learn to speak back. He stands, stretches, and walks closer, his whiskers twitching with amusement. Why do you think the tree gives this gift at all? Because the world needs listeners. Because the line between animal and human is not as thick as you believe. Because stories must be kept even when voices fail. It is a lonely task, but not a hopeless one. You reach out your hand. The cat presses his head into your palm, a brief electric contact. You are not alone, he tells you, and for a moment you believe him. Others have come before, and others will come again. The oak remembers all of you, and so do I. If you wish to find your way, trust the old things, earth, stone, and silence. Ask questions, Accept answers, even when they are not what you hoped. The cat steps away, tail flicking. He glances at old Toma, who finally relaxes, his ears tilting in relief. He is a good dog, the cat remarks. Not all dogs understand, but this one does. You are lucky, silent one. The cat leaps onto a low branch and melts into the shadows. You sit for a long time, feeling the weight of his words settle around you like snow. You trace the lines of the oak's bark, thinking of all the hands that have touched it before yours. Some gentle, some desperate, all searching for something they could not find elsewhere. Eventually, you stand and make your way down the hill, old Toma padding beside you. The village looks the same as always: smoke from chimneys, crows on the roofs, children's laughter tangled in the air. But you move through it with new eyes, seeing the boundary between worlds as thin as spider silk. That night, as you write by the hearth, you try to capture the cat's words, but they resist being trapped by charcoal and bark. Still, you write what you can. The history of the oak, the bargain of silence and understanding, the truth that being different does not mean being alone. When you sleep, you dream not of the tree, but of a path through the woods, lit by the eyes of creatures who know your name and call you friend. The world is dark, but it is not empty, and you, silent, listening, watchful, walk forward, one step at a time, into the mysteries that wait for you. Days pass after your encounter with the black cat, each one colder and darker than the last. Winter has truly settled in now. The fields wear a thin crust of frost, and every surface seems to echo the hard certainty of approaching snow. The villagers rush through their routines, faces pinched, voices sharper than before, as if every day is an endurance trial set by the season itself. For you, the silence inside has grown less like a punishment and more like an odd kind of shelter. You find comfort in small things: the creak of the cottage door, the warmth of Toma's body at your feet, the faint crackle of embers in the hearth. Even the animal's thoughts have quieted, less frantic in the cold, more willing to linger over memories of autumn sun and the taste of fallen apples. Still, the cat's words return to you, coiling around your mind in the hush before sleep. A gift or a curse, a lonely task, but not a hopeless one. It is hard not to weigh the truth of that, especially on nights when you hear your brother whisper stories about you to the others, stories in which you are a witch, or a spirit, or a changeling, come to steal luck from those who were born whole. You wonder if he is afraid of you now, or only afraid of what your silence might mean for him. You turn again and again to the mystery of the oak. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you truly understand. Why does the tree choose as it does? Why do some find madness and others wisdom in its silent language? Why, most of all, do you feel drawn to it still, even knowing the price? Late one night, unable to sleep, you slip from the house and trudge through the snow to the edge of the woods. The world is perfectly still, no wind, no footsteps but your own, no voices but those you carry inside. You pause at the border, where field meets forest, and call silently for the cat. You half expect him not to come, but after a moment he appears, padding out of the shadows, tail high, eyes bright. You are restless, he observes, not unkindly. Curiosity is a warm blanket on a cold night, but too much of it, and you may freeze where you stand. You send him your questions. Why does the oak do what it does? Is there a way to change the bargain? Must it always take the human voice in exchange for the gift of listening? The cat sits, curling his tail around his paws. His mind voice is softer now, full of something like regret. Long ago, when the world was younger, the boundary between human and animal was a thin line, so thin that one could slip across without noticing. Words were new then. Power lay in knowing how to speak, but also how to listen. The tree became the keeper of that boundary. Those who wished to hear more had to give something up, their speech, their place among the loud ones. Some did it willingly, for wisdom or escape. Others, not so much. The bargain endures because the world needs both voices and listeners. He gazes up at you, his eyes catching the starlight. It is not always fair. Sometimes a listener is born in a season of chaos or sorrow or fear. Sometimes the tree chooses poorly, but the gift, the curse, remains. There are those who learn to live with it, others do not. The world is not built on fairness, but on balance. You ask then if there is a way to change the balance, to reclaim what you have lost. The cat considers. His answer is slower this time, reluctant. The oak's magic is older than memory. It can be bent sometimes, but not broken. Some listeners seek a way back. They chase riddles, dig at roots, beg favors from the oldest of the animals. A few succeed, but only by trading one kind of silence for another. To gain your voice, you might lose the listening, or you might lose your place among humans forever, drifting into the wild for good. The choice is not easy, nor is it guaranteed. Most accept what they have become and find a new kind of peace. He rises and presses his side against your leg, a rare sign of comfort. Trust the earth and the old things. Sometimes they speak if you are patient, and do not discount the help of the small and clever, mice perhaps, or foxes. They know more than they let on. But whatever you seek, remember, curiosity may lead you to answers, but not always to happiness. You thank him, not with words, but with a feeling of gratitude and respect. He nods, stretches, and disappears back into the night. You return home, snow melting on your boots, your heart heavier but steadier. You begin to observe the animals more closely, seeking hints in their talk of burrows and tunnels, the hidden places of the world. You spend hours crouched in the barn, listening to the mice gossip about roots and stones, the secret passages beneath the earth. They are wary at first, but when you share a crumb of bread or a seed, they loosen their tongues. The roots go deep, deeper than the well. There are chambers where the oldest memories sleep. Some say the tree talks to the stones. Some say there is a door under the earth, but only the boldest have ever found it. You scribble these things down, piecing together a picture from scraps. The crows, too, grow more cooperative, offering you shiny fragments in exchange for bits of your diary, always about themselves, of course, but sometimes their stories brush the edge of truth. We saw a man who vanished beneath the oak. We saw a woman who talked to foxes and never returned. The roots remember, even when the branches forget. The weeks roll by. Your family accepts your long absences, your silent wanderings, as just another part of your strangeness. You are grateful for their indifference. It gives you space to seek what you need to know. You come to understand that the answer you seek, the possibility of changing the bargain, will not be found in words alone. It lies in listening, in humility, in the willingness to be both less and more than you were before. One night, as snow falls softly outside, you sit by the hearth and stroke old Toma's fur. He presses close, sighing contentedly. You realize, suddenly, that you do not hate the gift you have been given. You do not even hate the silence. There is sorrow, yes, but there is also a strange, unspoken joy in knowing so much, in carrying so many small stories inside you. You close your eyes and listen, not for answers, but for the deep, slow heartbeat of the world, pulsing beneath the roots, humming in the stones. And for the first time, you feel that perhaps you are exactly where you are meant to be. By now, your reputation in the village has settled into something solid and enduring, like a stone at the bottom of the river, worn smooth by the current. The villagers say little to you, and even less about you, at least when you are within earshot. Sometimes you see the youngest children watching you with wide, round eyes, as if you might sprout feathers or claws at any moment. The older ones, your brother included, avoid your gaze, unwilling to test the old stories they have begun to whisper among themselves. The adults, well, they have work to do, and as long as you carry your share of wood, water, and chores, they let you drift through the edges of life without complaint. The priest, who once eyed you with suspicion, now nods a curt greeting as you pass, as if to say that your fate is no longer his concern, nor the church's. Yet, if the world of people has narrowed around you, the world of animals has never been richer or more vibrant. Winter sharpens their voices, makes them more direct, less prone to the meandering fancies of summer. The crows, for all their riddles, have become your most steadfast correspondents. They drop tidbits on the windowsill, buttons, dull coins, a twist of red thread, in exchange for news, stories, or merely your attention. One day, a particularly bold crow hops close and eyes you sideways. Foxes know things. Foxes do not care much for trees, but they know about secrets. If you must ask, ask a fox, but mind your pockets. You take this advice seriously, especially as your curiosity about the oak's bargain burns brighter with every passing day. You watch for foxes at the edge of the village, in the snow-laced undergrowth near the riverbank, in the crumbling old orchard where frost-bitten apples still dangle. It takes time. Foxes are clever and private, living ghosts that slip between shadow and daylight. One evening, as the sky stains purple with early dusk, you spot her, a vixen, slender and red, her coat a flare of color against the white of the snow. She sits by the far hedgerow, ears perked, nose twitching, watching you as you watch her. You kneel, holding your breath, and try to send her a question in the way the black cat once taught you, not as words, but as an open hand, an invitation. Why do you seek the roots? The fox's mind voice is sly and silver, full of laughter and teeth. Why not accept what you have? The world is full of voices. Why chase the silence you left behind? You answer as best you can, picturing the ache of lost words, the weight of unspoken stories, the wish to balance what was taken with what was given. The fox listens, her tail flicking in amusement. People are always wanting what they cannot have, but sometimes the wanting itself is the gift. You learn more from longing than from having. Still, I can help if you pay the price. You nod, feeling the old thrill of making a bargain, one that does not require words, only intention and honesty. The fox's thoughts sharpen. The way beneath the oak is through the earth. The mice know the tunnels, but only the boldest can guide you. You must go to the oldest burrow, beneath the stones where the sun never reaches. There, you must listen, not to words, but to the bones of the world. If you listen well, the earth may answer, or it may swallow you whole. Foxes do not guarantee refunds. You thank her, offering a silent promise to remember the lesson. That desire is both wound and thread, leading you onward, shaping who you are. The vixen grins, then melts into the thickets, her laughter trailing behind her like smoke. You prepare for the journey with a curious calm. You know by now that there are no clear instructions, no map that will lead you surely and safely through the darkness. You gather what you think you might need: a scrap of bread, a coil of twine, your charcoal diary, the oak figurine. Old Toma insists on coming, his loyalty as steady as the moon. You follow the paths the mice have shown you, following the faint traces of their thoughts, the ticklish scents that thread through root and stone. The entrance is barely more than a shadow between rocks, half hidden by tangled grass and snow. You crouch and crawl, Toma behind you, the cold earth closing over your head. For a moment, panic flutters in your chest. What if the tunnels collapse? What if you are lost? What if you never hear the sky again? But the animal voices steady you. The mice chitter encouragement from the darkness. The fox's laughter echoes. The cat's warning purrs in your memory. You crawl deeper, the air growing thick and still. You hear, not with your ears, but with your whole self, the faint, patient heartbeat of the earth. It is not a voice, not a story, only a rhythm, slow and immense, older than any language. You press your palm to a stone, close your eyes, and wait. Time passes strangely underground. You lose count of your breaths. You feel the world shifting, roots growing, water seeping through rock. In that darkness, a new kind of listening awakens in you, deeper, wider, more patient than any conversation with animals or people. At last, a feeling rises through the ground, a sense of welcome, of acknowledgement. The earth does not answer your questions, not directly, but it offers you a memory, the image of the oak as a sapling, fresh and wild, unburdened by bargains or sorrow. You see, too, a parade of silent ones, children, elders, strangers, each carrying their own pain and hope, each finding their way forward, step by step, beneath the old tree's branches. You crawl back to the surface, blinking in the sudden glare of daylight. Old Toma scrambles after you, shaking dust from his fur. You sit on the frost-bitten grass, the oak's shadow falling over you, and breathe in the cold, sharp air. You realize that the fox was right. Longing shapes you just as surely as any curse or gift. And though you still wish, with all your heart, for your lost voice, you also understand that the journey, the questions, the listening, the silent kinship with all things is not without meaning. You return to the village, your pockets full of stories, your silence not empty but alive. You spend the next days in a peculiar state, part exhaustion, part restless anticipation, as if you have only half returned from the tunnels beneath the oak. Light stings your eyes, and the world above feels changed, brighter, crisper, full of meanings you can almost grasp, but not quite name. Old Toma is never far from your side. The fox's words haunt you, their sly certainty lingering whenever you catch a glimpse of your reflection in the icy stream or hear the wind rattle through the bare branches. In the days that follow, you return again and again to the animals, seeking something you cannot put into words. You talk with the mice in the barn, who now treat you as an equal, sharing scraps of gossip and secrets from their labyrinthine underworld. Humans are loud and slow, they confide. But you are learning. Down in the tunnels, all sounds are old. Even the earth listens, sometimes. Even the stones dream. Their chatter, once a torrent, is now a current you can navigate. You begin to notice how much is said in silence, in the way a whisker twitches, a tail flicks, a paw hesitates over the grain. It is a language as dense as soil, thick with old roots and new shoots. You press the oak figurine to your lips as you listen, drawing comfort from its familiar weight. It feels warmer, more alive, as if it has absorbed some of the energy from the tunnels. You wonder whether it has begun to change shape, whether the grooves you feel beneath your thumb are the same as when the fool gave it to you. Each night you trace them, half expecting to find a message spelled out in bark and wood. The crows, always alert for novelty, are quick to notice your return. They gather on the roof beams, heads cocked, sharp eyes missing nothing. Did you find answers below? Did you lose anything you cannot name? The foxes laugh about you, you know, not cruelly, just as foxes do. You send them your gratitude and your curiosity, asking if they have ever met others who sought the roots. They preen, pleased with your attention, and respond in riddles. Many listen, few understand. The ones who return are not the same as those who left. Some bring stories, some bring silence. All feed the tree in their own way. It is the cows who surprise you most. One frosty morning, you sit with them in the barn, the air thick with their breath and the heavy, warm scent of hay. They are not clever, not quick, but their patience is endless, their thoughts slow and deep as the turning of seasons. The roots drink everything: water, stories, memories, sorrow. We stand above and chew and remember. Grass comes, grass goes. The tree stays. The tree remembers more than we do, but less than the earth. Their wisdom is comforting, their perspective so wide that it makes your own concerns seem small and fleeting. You lean into their warmth, letting their peace settle over you, as old and gentle as sunlight. The days slide by. You pay attention to the smaller lives around you: beetles digging beneath the logs, spiders spinning webs between fence posts, sparrows picking at crumbs. Each carries a sliver of the world's secret, and you collect these fragments, recording them in your diary as carefully as prayers. One afternoon, as you rest beneath the gnarled apple tree behind the barn, a magpie alights on a branch above you, a piece of bright foil clutched in her beak. "You're quieter now," she remarks, her mind quick and mercurial. Not just silent, but quiet inside. That's a rare trick for a human. Did you learn it from the fox or the earth? You send her an image of the tunnels, the roots, the deep heartbeat of the ground. The magpie studies you, head tilted, then drops the foil at your feet. Shiny for a shiny. Knowledge for knowledge. That's fair. You laugh, or the closest you can come. A burst of joy in your chest, shared silently with the birds and the air. You realize that the gift of listening has changed you, not just in what you hear, but in how you feel. Less alone, less desperate, more attuned to the rhythms of life all around you. Yet the mystery of the oak remains, not diminished by your journey underground, but deepened. You still wonder, is there a way to unbind the bargain, to return what was taken, or is the only path forward one of acceptance? The cat's warning echoes. Curiosity may not always bring happiness, but it brings you here, into the marrow of things, into the thick tangle of roots and stories. One evening, as the sky bruises with sunset, you find yourself drawn once more to the fool. He is sitting by the frozen well, humming a tune only he knows. He nods as you approach, and without a word, you sit beside him. He digs in his pocket and pulls out a pebble, round and smooth, and presses it into your palm. For a moment, you are both quiet, sharing the comfort of company that needs no explanation. The fool's eyes are bright, and for the first time you see in them not madness, but recognition, a spark of kinship, as if he too knows what it is to live between words and worlds. You show him your diary, open to a page crowded with sketches, roots, tunnels, the faces of animals, the outline of the oak. He studies it, then grins, and adds a shape with your charcoal, a spiral winding inward, ending in a dot. He taps the spiral, then his chest, then yours. You understand, the journey is not a straight line, but a circle. The questions you carry may not have answers, but they bind you to others who search, who listen, who carry the silent stories forward. That night, you sit by the hearth and watch the fires dance. Your family goes about their routines, your brother singing under his breath, your mother sighing as she kneads dough, your grandmother wrapped in a blanket, lost in her own memories. You realize that the silence you carry does not separate you from them, not entirely. It shapes you, yes, but it also shapes the way you love, the way you pay attention, the way you remember. Before sleep, you trace the spiral in your diary and imagine it winding through your heart, through the tree, through the lives of every listener before you. You press your palm to the figurine, close your eyes, and listen to the house, to the earth, to yourself. The world is thick with voices, and you are one more story in the great, tangled web. With the coming of true winter, the village slips further into quiet. Paths grow harder, snow packs in the lanes, and the world shrinks to the size of a hearth fire or a circle of lanterns on a frosty night. You begin to understand that for all the strangeness the oak has woven into your life, there is a kind of safety in repetition, in the steady rhythm of days that change only with the season. And yet, you are not the same. It is not simply that you can hear the thoughts of animals, or that words refuse to form on your tongue. It is that your way of moving through the world has changed. You look and listen differently, more gently, with an awareness that every creature, every patch of earth is crowded with stories. You know now that every life is its own long conversation with the world, whether anyone else is listening or not. Most mornings, you walk the fields before the sun has climbed over the horizon. Toma, sturdy and patient, trots beside you. His company is wordless, comfortable. You are both accustomed to silence, to noticing the language of wind and ice. The crows greet you, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with snatches of dreams remembered from the night before. Saw the silent one wandering in the moonlight. Saw the fox slip through the hedge, saw the girl from the mill braid her hair with straw. We see everything, miss nothing. You nod, grateful for their vigilance. Their presence makes you feel less alone, as if you are part of the world's ongoing record, a watcher, a witness, one story among many. On these walks, you notice more than ever before the changing patterns of animal tracks in the snow, the way the river smokes on cold mornings, the invisible boundaries where one flock of sparrows cedes space to another. You recognize the subtle hierarchies among the chickens, the careful routes the mice take between pantry and cellar, the grudging alliances struck between the barn cats and the songbirds who steal their food. The other animals seem to sense your acceptance. They no longer treat you as an intruder, nor as a curiosity. You are simply present, a fact of their world, like the oak, like the sun's rising and setting. Even the magpies, once so quick to trade and taunt, now greet you with less mischief and more respect. Listening is good, says one, shaking off a dusting of snow. Too many want to talk, not enough want to hear. The best secrets wait for those who listen longest. There is in this a strange new confidence. Your earlier restlessness, the drive to undo your fate, to reclaim your lost voice, softens, replaced by a kind of gratitude. You have come to appreciate the world as it is, not only as you wish it could be. You find a curious joy in the routines, in the simple company of animals, in the silent warmth of your family in the evenings. But even in acceptance, there is a restless edge, a hunger for meaning that does not quite fade. It stirs whenever you see the oak silhouetted against the sky, or when the crows circle in a great dark knot above the hill. You know now that you are not the first to carry this gift, and you suspect you will not be the last. Sometimes, on the coldest nights, you think of the other listeners, the girl from the stream, the old woman among the graves, the boy from the mill. You watch for them in the market, at the edge of the woods, in the brief, bright eyes of animals that meet your gaze without fear. Sometimes you find them, sometimes you only sense their passing, a ripple at the edge of your attention. You begin to make a quiet practice of kindness. When a stray cat limps through the barn, you set out a bowl of scraps. When a wren gets caught in the chicken wire, you free it and follow its tumbling gratitude in the air. You patch the fence where the sheep worry at a hole, careful to leave a small gap for the fox, remembering the bargain you made. In your diary, you start to record not only the stories you gather, but your own reflections, how you have changed, what you have learned, the shape of your life, now that it no longer fits the village's old expectations. You sketch the oak again, but this time you surround it with shapes, animal tracks, feathers, paw prints, a spiral that winds outward instead of in. One day, as you sit beside the frozen pond, the fool appears at your side, as he so often does. He grins and presses something into your hand, a smooth, round stone, this one marked with a spiral etched in soot. You look at him, question in your eyes, but he only shrugs, an eloquent gesture for someone who lives mostly in riddles and laughter. Together, you toss the stone across the ice, watching as it skids and spins and finally comes to rest beneath the willow's shadow. You realize then, with a sudden burst of clarity, that your life is not a story to be solved, but a story to be lived, a web of listening and watching, of small kindnesses, of carrying what you cannot change with grace. You remember the words of the black cat, lonely, but not hopeless. That evening, you press the stone into the palm of your brother as he sits by the fire, telling his wild stories to the little ones. He blinks at you, surprised, then closes his fist around the stone as if he understands that it is a gift and not a trick. You write in your diary what you listen to, you love. What you love, you change. What you change, you must also remember. Winter thickens around the village. Still, you walk and listen and tend, one silent footstep at a time, weaving yourself more deeply into the lives of those who cannot speak as humans do. The oak stands on its hill, patient as ever, and you feel its roots stretch under the frozen earth, past, present, and future, all wound together in the silence that now feels like home. You notice as the long winter at last begins to break, first in drips from the eaves, then in the tentative green at the edge of the fields, that the village itself seems to stir from a kind of sleep. People talk of the thaw as if it is a miracle, though it comes every year. The old men squint at the sky, the women scrub the soot from windows, and the children chase each other through the muddy lanes, boots splashing and voices clear. There is relief in this ordinary noise, a reminder that life can resume its noisy, careless pattern. But your world has changed in ways that the turning season only makes more obvious. You walk with the animals, not only in the woods and fields, but in your mind, your inner world threaded through with their chatter, their preoccupations, their small but essential joys and fears. Their voices no longer feel like an intrusion or a flood. They are simply part of your landscape, like the rush of water in the stream, the cawing of crows, the clink of pails in the morning. You keep your diary faithfully, though the pages are starting to fill. You're writing smaller and more compact as you try to fit every stray thought, every detail. Now you write with an eye for irony, for the strange truths that animals reveal about the world and about humans. The sheep's endless debates about which patch of grass is sweetest are no less heated for their lack of logic. The barn cats, disdainful of all but the sunniest patch of straw, issue pronouncements on the laziness of dogs and the foolishness of birds. The crows, naturally, view the entire world as a collection of schemes and opportunities, narrating the village's comings and goings as if they are the keepers of a grand, feathered history. It is in this steady rhythm that you begin to see the village itself in a new light. From your peculiar vantage, you notice the invisible threads that bind every life together. How the baker's dog visits the smithy each morning for a morsel of meat. How the chickens grow restless on days when the storm clouds gather. How the mice in your cottage follow the changing moods of your family as surely as they follow the crumbs. Your own feelings for the village are complicated. There is affection, certainly, a kind of rough loyalty for the place that raised you and the people who still, in their way, care for you. But there is also distance, a sense that you have been sent out into the margins and have learned to thrive there. You do not wish for your old life anymore. The longing to speak, to join in the easy banter and laughter, has faded. What remains is something else, a sharp awareness, an appreciation for all the things that cannot be said and yet are felt, known, lived. The animals, it turns out, are better company than many people, especially when it comes to understanding the deeper currents of village life. From the sparrows, you learn which house has the most generous hand with breadcrumbs. From the pigs, you hear about the latest marital squabble, always through the kitchen window, always involving the bread. The sheep have opinions about nearly every person in the village, none of them flattering, but all surprisingly astute. Sometimes, in the barn at dusk, you record these observations with a dry wit, as if you are the historian of a kingdom that no one else sees. The reign of Queen Hen over the compost heap remains unchallenged, you write, despite an attempted coup by the brown rooster, whose leadership style is best described as optimistic but incoherent. Or, the Council of Mice debated the merits of candle wax versus old cheese and concluded that both are, in fact, inedible and therefore ideal for gnawing. Yet, the world you observe is not all comedy. There is real hardship, real danger. The foxes must hunt or starve. The sparrows risk the claws of cats. The river swells and drowns a litter of shrews one rainy week. Even in your own cottage, you feel the weight of want, the careful rationing of flour, the hard bargains struck at market, your mother's sighs in the dark. In this, you find kinship with the animals. You are all living from moment to moment, sharing in the uncertain abundance of spring. There is a somber comfort in that. You are not alone in your struggle, nor are you alone in your quiet triumphs. The warm spot in the sun, the shared crust, the relief when a storm passes and the world seems to right itself again. The villagers, of course, remain mostly oblivious to your new depth of perception. If they notice that you have grown quieter, more observant, they attribute it to your affliction. You do not mind. Sometimes you even enjoy the way their stories about you have grown over the winter. Now you are not just silent, but wise, the one who sees things others miss, the one to whom children bring small problems, a broken doll, a lost coin, a sick chicken, in the hope that you will know what to do. Your family adjusts too. Your mother trusts you with more tasks. Your brother leaves offerings on your bedside table, a feather, a scrap of blue cloth, a curl of birch bark, as if you are a minor household spirit who might bless him with luck. Even your grandmother, gruff and slow, pats your hand sometimes and looks at you with something that might be pride, or perhaps only relief that your strangeness is the quiet kind. All the while, the oak remains, watchful and unchanged. Its roots thread beneath the village, beneath your own dreams, beneath every story that stirs in the dirt and dust of daily life. You visit it less often, but when you do, you feel less fear, more respect. You understand now that the tree does not demand worship, only witness, someone to notice, to remember, to carry the old stories forward in silence and in laughter. You end each day with your diary, adding one more observation, one more joke, one more secret that only the animals could tell. Your writing is no longer just for yourself. It is a record for the future, for those who will come after, for the silent ones not yet born. And as the evenings grow lighter, you find yourself watching the young lambs in the field, the newly hatched chicks, the fledgling crows tumbling from the nest. The world is full of beginnings, even as it circles back on itself in the endless dance of seasons. You sit in the grass, Toma at your side, and think, maybe in the end, this is what the oak always wanted. Not an answer, not an ending, but a witness, a listener, a keeper of stories. You are, at last, content to play your part. You notice it first in the nervous silence of the crows. They gather early one morning along the rooftops, restless, feathers fluffed against the spring chill, their usual sniping banter replaced by a humming tension. Tama growls low in his throat, hackles up, though he cannot say why. The world feels brittle, full of anticipation. The reason makes itself known soon enough. There is a newcomer in the village. Word travels as quickly among animals as among people, perhaps more quickly, given how many small ears and quick eyes patrol the borders of your world. The news trickles in fragments. Someone new, a child, bold and foolish, drawn to the hill, touched the tree. You know what this means before anyone else does. The pattern is older than you, older than memory. It is the oak's way, you realize now, as certain as the return of the sun or the thawing of the river. Each generation, one or two, curious, dissatisfied, bold enough or lonely enough to press their palm to the bark and ask a question that cannot be answered with words. You feel a peculiar ache, a twist of pride and dread as you watch the newcomer from a distance. She is a little older than you were, perhaps, with a tangle of wild hair and a stubborn set to her jaw. The village children circle her warily, as if uncertain whether to make her a companion or an enemy. You see the confusion in her eyes, the way she mouths words and finds them missing, the way she flinches when a dog barks too loudly or a flock of sparrows explodes overhead. At first, she does not see you. She wanders the fields in a daze, her movements awkward, like someone waking from a long sleep. The animals respond as they always do, with curiosity, suspicion, and, in time, acceptance. The sheep mutter about her strange smell. The cats slink around her ankles, fishing for crumbs and gossip. The crows, quick to spot a pattern, begin to debate her merits, as if adding another silent one to the world is an event of cosmic significance. She is lost, they decide, but not hopeless. She will find her way, or she will not. Either way, the tree is satisfied. It is not long before she seeks you out. Perhaps it is the way you linger at the edge of the crowd, or the way the animals cluster around you when you walk through the market. Perhaps it is simply fate, or the logic of shared silence. She appears one afternoon as you write by the well, Toma curled at your feet, your diary open to a page of spirals and feathered words. She stands before you, uncertain, fists clenched at her sides. You look up and meet her gaze, a silent question, an invitation. She kneels beside you, her breath quick and shallow. You offer her your diary, flipping to a blank page, placing a stub of charcoal in her hand. She writes, "Did it happen to you too?" You nod. "Can you hear them?" You nod again, then point at the nearest crow. "What do I do now?" You think for a moment, then write back. "Listen, watch, wait. It gets easier." She reads this, her lips moving, and lets out a shaky breath. Tears threaten at the corners of her eyes, but she blinks them away. She writes, "Will I ever talk again?" You do not know how to answer. You shake your head, then cross it out, then shrug. You draw a spiral, then a sun, then a pair of listening ears. She stares at these symbols for a long time, as if waiting for them to make sense. She visits you often after that, shadowing your steps, watching how you move through the world. At first, she is desperate for guidance, clinging to you like a raft in a flood of voices. She finds comfort in your presence, in your calm, in the way Toma accepts her without question. Gradually, she learns to navigate the cacophony, to filter the barn cat's complaints from the sheep's worries, to ignore the crow's endless arguments, to distinguish between the voice of the wind and the thoughts of the field mouse beneath the stones. You watch her transform day by day. She grows quieter, more observant, learning to see the world not as a wall of noise, but as a tapestry of stories. The village, as always, adapts in its clumsy way, first uneasy, then resigned. The other children, sensing her new status, begin to invent stories about her, as they once did about you. She seems less troubled by this than you were, more willing to shrug off their curiosity and fear. In time, she becomes not your pupil, but your companion, another silent witness to the world's turning. Together, you walk the fields, the riverbanks, the woods at dusk. Together, you watch the lambs wobble on unsteady legs, the crows quarrel on the rooftops, the fox slide through the shadowed grass. She learns to keep her own diary, to record the animal stories that only she can hear, to find her own brand of wry humor in the gossip of chickens and the sly wisdom of barn mice. One evening, as you sit beneath the oak, she passes you a note. Does it ever feel like enough? You smile, an answer more honest than words. You have learned finally to make peace with what you cannot change. You notice, too, that your own role has shifted. The villagers, who once avoided your gaze, now nod as you pass, as if you are part of the landscape. Some even bring their children to you, hoping your silence holds a kind of blessing. Your family, your brother, your mother, your grandmother, has grown accustomed to your oddity, and to the newcomers, too. There is less fear now, more acceptance, a grudging respect for what the silent ones endure. You realize that you are not only a listener, but a guide. Your own story, so long defined by loss and longing, has become a path for others to follow. You are not healed, not in the way the villagers might wish, but you are whole. The world continues, seasons turn, lambs grow into sheep, the crows hatch new schemes. You mark it all in your diary, page after page, story after story, no longer just for yourself, but for the girl beside you and for the ones who will come after. And beneath it all, the oak stands watch, its roots thick with memory, its branches tangled with the silent songs of all who have ever listened. Years pass. The seasons tumble forward with their usual stubbornness, and the village, your village, remains mostly unchanged on the surface. New roofs are thatched, old ones patched. Children become taller and bolder, then in turn take up the chores and complaints of adults. The fields green and brown, flood and freeze, yield and withhold in their own reliable cycle. There are always storms in summer, and the first snow always comes too soon or too late. But beneath this everyday continuity, something has shifted, and you know it is not just in yourself. It is in the way stories travel from house to house, less sharp, more gentle, often tinged with a peculiar kind of respect for those who walk quietly or listen well. It is in the way the animals respond to the presence of silent ones, not with suspicion, but a kind of deference, as if you are a necessary part of how the world works. The girl who once found you by the well has grown. She is not a child any longer, though the memory of her first lost words still lingers in her eyes. She keeps her own records now, filling scraps of birch bark with the gossip of crows, the dramas of geese, the ancient grumblings of the hedgehog under the smithy's shed. Sometimes others join her, another boy with a distant look, an old woman who leaves baskets of mushrooms on her doorstep, a girl from a distant village who claims to have heard the wind whisper her name. The silent ones, it seems, are never truly many, but never truly alone. There is a new tradition, one that has crept into village life without anyone deciding it should. On the night before the longest day of the year, the children gather at the base of the old oak. They circle it hand in hand, daring one another to touch the bark, to peer up into the blackness between its branches, to sit perfectly still and see if they can hear what the tree remembers. They tell stories, too, half myth and half memory, about those who can hear animals speak, about listeners who walk between the worlds of people and beasts, about how silence can be a kind of wisdom. You watch from the edge of the crowd, joined by the girl and sometimes by the fool, whose hair is white now, and whose stories are the same ones he always told, only slower and more tangled. Old Toma is long gone, but there are other dogs who rest their heads on your knees, and you welcome them with a familiar, wordless affection. Sometimes a child asks you what it is like to hear the thoughts of animals. You smile, draw a spiral in the dust, and let the crows answer for you, their voices crackling with laughter and pride. It is noisy, they say. It is confusing. It is better than sitting still and thinking about rain. Sometimes it is the only way to know what matters. The villagers have grown used to your presence, your habits, your odd, silent walks. When they speak of you, it is as if you are both part of the village and not, a fixture like the oak itself, someone to ask about the health of the hens or the meaning of a strange bird call in the middle of the night. No one expects you to answer in words, but when you smile and nod, they are satisfied, as if some small blessing has passed between you. Your family is older now, too. Your brother, once so eager to escape your shadow, has grown into a man who treats you with an awkward, fierce loyalty. Your mother's hands are stiff and slow, but she trusts you with the work of the house and the secrets of the pantry. Your grandmother has left the world, but her memory lingers, a comfort rather than a grief. You think she would be proud of the way you have learned to live with your silence, to make it your own. There are times when you miss your old voice, when a song rises in the village square, or when the urge to shout, to call, to protest is almost too much to bear. But these moments pass, softened by the steady company of those who do not require words from you. In their own way, they have learned to listen too. At the edge of every season, you visit the oak. The tree is unchanged, yet not the same. Its trunk bears new scars, new initials cut by daring children, new knots in the wood where a branch once grew. Sometimes you press your palm to the bark, feeling the deep, slow pulse that is not quite a voice, but is something just as real. You remember the cat's lesson, the fox's bargain, the fool's spiral. You remember the tunnels beneath the roots, the old questions, and their older, humbler answers. One spring evening, as the air buzzes with insects and the frogs begin their endless chorus by the river, you find the girl, now a young woman, waiting beneath the oak. She offers you her diary, full of scribbled animal conversations and rough sketches of paws, wings, and antlers. Together, you leaf through the pages, pausing to laugh at a particularly sharp bit of crow gossip or a mouse's poetic lament for the last piece of cheese. You realize then that you are no longer waiting for anything to change. The silence is not a void to be filled, but a space that makes room for everything else. The chorus of animals, the cycles of the seasons, the slow unfolding of friendship and kinship in a world that values neither quick answers nor easy stories. The oak, for all its age and mystery, has given the village a new kind of inheritance, the knowledge that listening is as vital as speaking, that stories can be kept in silence as surely as in song. There will always be another child bold enough to test the bark, another fool wise enough to see the joke, another spiral etched in soot or stone or memory. As the night settles, you sit quietly with your companions, human, animal, and other, listening to the village and its wild outskirts breathe and dream. You are not alone. You have never truly been alone, not even in the beginning. The oak stands on the hill, silent and alive, holding all your stories, waiting for the next listener to press a hand to its bark and begin again.